Welcome to the Infrastructure Oversight Board meeting on March 25th, 2021 for the City of Burbank. Happy spring, everybody.
Spring.
Let's start off with flag salute, shall we? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Let's move into roll call.
Okay, Armin Abazian. I believe you're muted.
Present.
Walter Brennan Jr.,
Present.
Maria Coronado.
Present.
Thank you. Greg Jackson,
Present.
Vanessa Rochelle,
Present.
Tamala Takahashi,
Here.
Jeff Vanderborg. He's absent for this meeting.
All right. I won't forget this time. Do we have any announcements?
Yes.
Looks like we have. Good. Go ahead.
Hang on.
So I wanted to give an update on the gas company construction work that's going on Verdugo and at Verdugo and Reese. So the work that the gas company doing is performing is a system enhancement program. It's a company-wide program that they're working on, where they're actually upgrading their valve and also some of their pipes. The initial permit was issued in October 22nd, and when they started to proceed the work and excavated the ground, they actually discovered a conflict, an unforeseen condition. There was a sewer lateral that was in conflict of where the work was supposed to be performed. So they had to do some additional work, some design and permitting through the city to make sure that the lateral is going in the correct position. And I believe the lateral was for servicing the McDonald's there. So due to this unforeseen condition, the schedule actually got prolonged and pushed back. And so what happened was there was a small window where the gas company was going to come in, do the work and get out. Because of the unforeseen condition, the schedule got pushed out. And the window that they had to be able to perform the work, they weren't able to do that, continue the work. So what happened was during the winter, there's a high demand for gas for heating. The BWP, there's actually a lot of energy that they actually use from the gas company also. So they could not come back until right in March. And they were actually scheduled to come in March. And the work itself, it includes 2 phases. First phase is called a cross compression. That's when they're actually, I don't know the full technical process of this, but it's where they're actually cutting the pipes and removing the gas from what they're going to abandon. and the second phase was going to be this tie-in. The first phase, actually, they were able to perform the work, but they could not finish the second phase, the tie-in, because of there was an incident at Studio City where there was an impact to the gas company line where I think a contractor, there was some emergency work that they had to perform. Due to that work, they could not shut down the system where there would have been a huge impact to their service. So they actually pushed the tie-in to a different date. We're still waiting for that date for them to come back. I talked to the gas company representative today. She said that they're trying to schedule something hopefully within the next 4 weeks at the latest. So hopefully by the end of April, we should be done so that they could actually finish the work and then leave the area. One of the things that the permitting group did evaluate when the incident first happened in October is, they did consider requiring the gas company to backfill and then kind of remove it and plate it. But they felt that due to COVID, the low traffic and also the schools not being in session, as far as not physical school, that they felt that it wasn't a hazard to the community. Definitely it's a nuisance, but they felt that if we required them to backfill it, it would have taken them a little bit longer to come in, dig it out again. So the process might have taken even longer, and gas company might have even pushed their schedule even further out. So they felt that it was best for our community to try to get the gas company to come back and then leave as soon as they can. So hopefully by the end of April, everything should be done and the project for this will be complete. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Often when city streets are cut up for projects like this or smaller ones, and this area is filled in and resurfaced, there's a depression that results. What does Public Works do to monitor this, to have them come back and repair the street, if that happens? Because I've seen it all too often. Our streets become denigrated because of construction, and that's the end of the story.
So, there are requirements per the permit, how they're supposed to backfill the trench. So basically, we do have the inspectors there to inspect the backfill of the dirt and also the asphalt compaction. So everything is inspected and regulated through the city permitting. So there may be times that if there is some deficiency, there is I believe a warranty there where we can request the contractor to come back and fix it within a certain time frame. If it's years from the time that they actually did the work, then I think I don't think that we have that time frame. So there are guidelines and checks that we have that we could actually get them to come back.
All right, well, that's good to hear.
Any further questions or comments? All right, thank you, Hoon.
Thank you.
Do you have anyone for public comment, Karina?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. The consent calendar, we have approval of the minutes. Any question or comment about the minutes?
Move to approve.
We have a second? All right, we have 2 seconds. Call for a vote.
Okay. Armin Avazian,
Yes.
Walter Brennan Jr.,
Approved.
Maria Coronado,
Approved.
Greg Jackson,
Approve.
Vanessa Rochelle,
Approved.
Tamala Takahashi,
Yes.
and Jeff Vanderbort. Here.
All right, now on to my favorite part of the evening, reports to the board. It looks like we have the updated proposed capital improvement project, CIP program for fiscal year 2021 to 22.
Yes.
Yes. Hoon, I'll jump in and do a little introduction while you get set up. Madam Chair and board members, just like last month, I'm very excited to present to you our second presentation on the first ever prioritized capital improvement project program for the city. And it's a good discussion and comments and questions last month. And we have a few additions in a good way, you know, more projects to do based on some late breaking developments from last month that Hoon will be, so take it away, please.
Right, thank you, Mr. Bergman. So this is the CIP program that we shared with the board last month. So as you can see, there are 6 additional projects that we added to the list. One, I think we actually shared with you regarding the New Hall Burbank Central Library project. That's phase 2. We shared that this is forthcoming, and then there are a few others that we added, things that actually kind of fell through the cracks of the process, but we did catch it in time so that we could add it to the program itself. There are 2 new projects. It's a Safe Clean Water Program, Measure W. That's the measure that was actually passed by the county. I think they're the ones who initiated it, and it was county-wide program, and we get funding through this, and it's to actually comply with the MS4 permit, which is known as the MPDS, part of the MPDS water quality control permitting. And then second is the Olive Magnolia Bridge Safety Barrier Rail. It's just to analyze the existing rail that's there, and also to include the design work for that. And the next 3 projects that's in the multi-year project list, it's the Catch Basin Trash Excluder. This actually includes work to be performed as part of the adding screens to the catch basin, but also it includes water quality testing and other requirements per the MS4 permit. But I think what's going to happen is as the Measure W funds come through the city, as we collect and develop the program, the catch basin trash excluder will be most likely transferred to 109 in the future instead of the 534, even though we do show it in the future years in the Fund 534. And then we had the facility enhancement upgrade. This actually project, it's a security upgrade through citywide. It was originally it was also part of the facility CIP program, which I will point out later, that there were $200,000 in that program, but we took to get out of there, and then we were putting it into this program here, into this capital project. And then bridge repair, it's a annual bridge repair project. It's a project that we actually contract with the county. We have a agreement that we have with the county, and they actually go out with a area wide, not just Burbank, but county, and I think La Cañada and other areas that they have agreements with. And so they could get a better pricing for the work itself. And this is partially or mostly funded by a federal grant. And our share basically of the project is $81,000. That's the prior appropriation. And then the $50,000 that you see, that's for next fiscal year and the future years, is so that we could actually continue the bridge repair work. So this is the just the information that was for the CIP project list. We did include, based on the comments from the IOB last meeting, the community interest to the project, just to reflect that how we came about the scoring for that. And then, so we had the Safe Clean Water Program, as I shared with you. And then the Olive Bridge Safety Barrier Rail. These are the 3 new projects that we are including this fiscal year as part of the program. This is the overall budget that we are requesting. And as you can see in the highlight in the red font, and also the highlighted in beige there, or tan, those are the additional projects that's been added from the last presentation from last month. As I shared with you, this is the facility CIP program. The total amount has not changed, but in the last presentation, there was $200,000 tied to the security upgrade, but that, as you saw, that it's became a CIP project, and the $200,000 actually is transferred into the fiber, the communication program. So that's how so we're not requesting additional funds for that. And I believe that concludes the additional information, and I am available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Hoon. Madam Chair, board members, any questions?
I have a question or two. The proposed budget for this next fiscal year has gone up roughly $1.5 million since last month. From what I can glean, about half of that is what Prop W monies. Where did the rest come from? Did we have a rich uncle, or did something happen? The Magnolia, the Olive and Magnolia, that's actually also not Fund 534, that's 108. That's Measure A funding. The additional 534 funds, it comes to $300,000, $125 for the trash excluder, and the facility security enhancement upgrade, that's $175,000. So a total of $300,000 from 534, and everything else is a different funding source. Different funding. Okay. I assume, Madam Chair, this is the time that we're going to discuss, our views on these projects. So if you don't mind, I'll jump in. They all seem very, laudable improvement projects for our community that will all benefit in some form. So, I don't have any difficulty with what staff is recommending. I do have one basic difficulty, however, in how this has been presented. I thought we were going to also find out about projects that received less than 10 points in your analysis, so we can see, what fell below the line and how to compare what you're suggesting versus what didn't make the cut. And we haven't been provided that information this time around.
Yeah,
I would like to see it next time that we provided some additional information on what projects didn't make it, so we can make a reasonable decision of saying, yes, staff is right in excluding those, versus no, staff, needs to reconsider what they're recommending.
Yeah,
That's
so
my
we
10 cents.
actually, every single project that's being proposed here are the capital program. We did not omit any project that's being proposed. I think Ken shared with the board last month so what's going to happen is, as the program develops, there's going to be a line threshold where, based on funding and the staff available, how much we could deliver, and there's going to be a program, like projects that will fall above the line or below the line, and projects that fall below the line will not fall. And those are the projects that the board could discuss and see how they want to shift the projects around. So there aren't any projects that actually fell below 10. So this is the total project request through CD,
Okay.
Parks and Rec, and Public Works.
All right. Well, thank you for explaining that. Now I feel a little bit better.
Kamala?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hahn, for that presentation. Follow-up question for Mr. Jackson questions. So for Fund 534, what's the total budgeting that we're requesting from that fund? Just for 534. I'm sorry, I couldn't see that on the sheet. Maybe I missed it.
Mouse isn't working.
It's on the sheet that shows the CIP program funding, what I'll call the rainbow sheet.
Okay.
Look at 534 on the left in unrestricted funds and go over to the right with the total, and it's $11,700,000.
Okay. And that number, is that number derived from the budget allocation that has been set for infrastructure? Say that's how much basically the city is being directed to spend, and so you have to fit the projects into that? Or is that just the total of what all the projects that we have on the list will equal to, and we're asking for that budget piece from the general budget to cover that? Which,
I see, I know Jen's unmuted, but I'll start that.
thanks.
Basically, we work with finance to make sure we know the amount of money that's available for us in Fund 34 to use. And like Hoon said, we balance that out with our staff and actually consultant resources to make sure we have the right workload that can get done with the amount of 534 monies that are available to us. Jen?
Yes, what Mr. Berkman said is exactly correct. So we put all the 534 fund requested projects together, which is how we get the 11.7. I do want to point out to the board that the infrastructure fund also has an annual maintenance and operating budget of about $4.5 million, and that's for a total general citywide maintenance. So the total budget for that fund this year is $16.2 million. Now that's a little bit higher than what we anticipate in revenues for that fund on an annual basis. But as the board may remember, we were very, very conservative in planning our infrastructure projects for this current fiscal year, because with COVID-19, we didn't know how our Measure P revenues might be affected or impacted by COVID-19. So we held off on a lot of capital project planning. So we do have a little extra savings from this current fiscal year for not programming those projects that allow us to do a few extra projects next year within that fund without going over budget.
So you said that the total is 16.2 million that's on the budget for infrastructure in this budget. And
Yes.
how much did you say is available to us? You said that first you looked at how much is available, and then so how much is available? Is it 16.2 or is it more or less?
We're projecting about just over 17 million in revenue next year. So we're close, but we'll still come under, and we have a fund balance of around 20 million that we're projecting to end this year with, because we've been so conservative with appropriations in the current year. So the fund is very healthy. Even if for some reason COVID-19 continued to impact our revenues, we wouldn't be in a situation where the fund is in danger of being fiscally insolvent or anything like that.
Okay, so we're coming in under, this budget is coming in under what available funds are to have some wiggle room. Okay,
This budget will be balanced, and there'll be an available balance left over from prior years.
great. And then are there any, and this is, I don't know if this is for Mr. Berkman or Mr. Hahn, maybe even Ms. Becker, are there any unfunded projects that potentially could come up during the process of budgeting that either the community or the council or one of the other departments will say, why isn't this being budgeted this year? Is there something potentially that could come in front of us that could say, that would challenge this in any way, that we're potentially missing? Or is it pretty much covering every infrastructure project that somebody might come along and say this should be done this year?
So I'll go back to the process a little bit. The process to develop an annual capital program is to, first of all, we know what is needed to be done from, say, prior years, but we go to all the departments and ask for their projects, and those are the new project sheets that you see. The answer to your question is yes. Of course, council could say, do this, and staff will do that. What I would probably report back to council through the city manager is our resources are finite, and there's going to have to be a project that's dropped, and that will be open and transparent. Or if we could take it on for some reason, we got done quickly on another project, we could do it, but it would definitely be an open public discussion if that was to happen. Same with the departments. For this board, if any change to our capital program comes after you have recommended it to council and council approves it through the budget, we would likely bring it back to you for your information at least, so you understand what's going on with the program. And then we can move forward if council needs to approve funding authority or contracts or things like that. So we would all see everything that's happening.
Okay. But right now you don't have any projects that you foresee that it wouldn't be something that, oh, that project, obviously that's coming up. We expected that. There's nothing that you foresee potentially being an issue that would come up at this point.
As of tonight, at this meeting, no, I do not.
Right. Okay, great. Good. Okay, so I have a couple more questions. One is about the library funding. And just so I understand, this is for the $150,000. Is for planning, right? Is for development planning.
Yes, basically the $150,000, it's kind of even though it's phase two, we call it phase two because at phase one, there was a vision study that was done by the library group. So now the next step is to, based on the study that's been performed and what council has heard and the board also have heard, we're moving forward to basically kind of see what the next options are. Looking at also, maybe different types of project delivery. I think the popular one right now is the P3. But we're going to still look at all avenues and see what's our best option. We will be sending out an RFQ, probably a request for qualification and probably a request for proposal to kind of start the process to get a consultant in and evaluate and help us kind of lead and guide us and give us recommendations on what steps needs to be taken so that we could actually have a better plan and how we could schedule. So as you could see on the library project, it's not considered a multi-year at this time because we have really no idea what the future is as far as what the cost is going to be and how we're going to fund the project. So I think based on the study, we will be able to get a better picture, better idea of what the cost will be to the city.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Let me add to Mr. Han's answer. It's not necessarily to hire a consultant to figure out kind of the next step. It could just be a RFQ, RFP that we prepare as staff and bring in bidders and proposers for whatever project delivery method we decide to do here, through DOC, through the Development Oversight Committee discussions and keeping the board in the loop the entire time also.
Okay, great. And then on that same topic, it says here that the funding source is 370. And on the following pages, it says 370 is the library fund. So where is 370? Where is it really coming? Is it coming from a grant? Is it coming from general fund? Is it something that's been set aside for the library that's been sitting there?
The third answer is correct. A number of years ago, the city council set aside some seed money to start the process for researching and developing a new central library. It kind of was established as a savings account. I think initially it was 1.5 million, and then we ended up using half of it during the last budget crisis to fund other items for the library. And what's left in there is that 750,000, and it really was kind of a savings account for a new central library. So it seemed to serve the purpose to use that as we, pursue this option to utilize those funds that were specifically set aside for the library within our 370 fund, which is our general city capital projects fund.
Okay. So there's 600K left then. And so if something were to come along this year and would need to be pulled a little bit extra for the library, that's where it would come from.
Yeah. And when we enter the next phase, we could potentially use that for design or any other expenses that come as the library project moves along.
Okay, great. Mr. Brennan, did you have a follow-up question to that? I saw your hand come up. No? Okay. And then one more comment is for the item with the Olive and Magnolia Bridge safety barrier rail. First, I want to say thank you because that has been a project that I have been bugging council for. I don't even know how long it's been now, because my kids use those bridges to get across, and also as a driver, going across that bridge, the pedestrians right there are so close to the street. So, and when I did the tour of the project on First Street project or Front Street project, and they talked about putting in the new bridge on Magnolia Boulevard, which is part of that project. the first thing I thought of is, oh my gosh, there's going to be so much more pedestrian traffic on that Magnolia Bridge walking to downtown. And on the bus, Ms. Springer was there, and I told her we need to have a railing on that there because it's going to be too. We have bikes and people and stuff. So I'm really glad, really glad to see that this is being pursued. And I think that on the section with the analysis of this project where it says community interest, I really think that that's a high community interest, especially amongst the walking and biking community in Burbank. So I think that's really good. And moving forward, I really hope that this moves fast because I want to see this done soon and hopefully done before the project's finished on Front Street. So I just wanted to mention that. That's all the questions I have for this now. Thank you.
So if I may, the Olive and Magnolia, so this fiscal year, or I guess next fiscal year, it's for the analysis and design. And based on that, we'll have a pretty good idea on what the construction cost may be. And we'll be requesting construction dollars in the future fiscal years.
Is there any way that the community can provide input to share how important this is for us to get done and encourage you to move forward faster on it?
That's probably, it's going according to how the process is because we have to go out with an RFP to get a consultant to onboard, or we may use we just recently actually council approved the on-call consultants. So we may be able to use one of the on-call, which will kind of help us, I think, save at least 2 to 3 months of the RFP process of getting a consultant on board. So it's, when we actually get the consultant on board, when they do the process, that's going to take some time. So hopefully, if that goes a lot faster and something miraculous happens, then we may be able to ask for additional funds at an earlier time. But I highly doubt it at this time.
Okay. And now that we're talking about it, made me think, is there any way to integrate this, or is there any benefit of integrating this, or is it already integrated with the Complete Streets plan, or is that where this originated from, or is that part of it?
No, it's not part of the Complete Street, and this is actually strictly the bridge, the barrier rails, or the rails itself.
It's purely for safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can incorporate, if the opportunity arises with the budget to provide some aesthetics, then of course there could be some community input there, and we'll be working hand in hand with CDD and a developer, to see if the opportunity exists to commingle the efforts and make sure we're on the same page. But we'll definitely fast track it the best we can.
I'm sorry, one more thing as we're talking, it made me think. There's also going to be a meeting about the bus rapid transit, I think in the next couple of weeks, an update on that. And that's going to go right through the Olive Bridge, right? So is there any ETA on when that project would be done? And then if that's the case, would it be better to wrap up the costs of doing a railing with that instead of doing it ourselves and then having them redo it when the bus comes through, or how would that pair up?
There are comments that the city staff has recommended for council to make. I believe that's, I think it's the 13th meeting. I'm not sure, in April, that council is going to approve the letter to go to Metro. And that's for the draft EIR. So there is some time, and there are improvements that staff recommends be made to the Olive Bridge within that project. So we're definitely on top of that.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Brennan, I saw your hand up. Do you still have a question? But you're on mute right now, just so you know. You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Good. Okay. The question is, how did you come up with that 150,000 number? Is that for hiring a consultant to go out and do work to tell you how much the project's going to cost, or give you an analysis of what you should be doing? Because it just seems kind of like a high number from my own past for doing that kind of work.
So
Where did you come up with that number? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely just an estimate, what we feel that, what it's going to cost as far as getting a consultant in and going over the scope of the service that we're looking for. Some of the things that we're looking for is to really kind of look at the overall, because we can't just look at the central library because there's an impact to the area, the kind of the civic center area. So there's going to be some overlap. I think there's going to be some master planning, at least conceptually, to kind of do some layouts. So I think right now we're being conservative on that number. And ideally, if we could come a little bit under, that would be great. But we don't want to be in a situation where we underestimate and under budget and then have to come back for additional funds.
I see.
And if I may add to Mr. Hahn's answer, it is definitely a option A, B, C thing where we got to think of multiple avenues forward, and each way forward could be a little different. I'll credit Hoon with the idea that we could quite possibly, because as you mentioned, it is something that is tied into the Civic Center, our ASB building, maybe the parking garage at City Hall, as well as, of course, the library.
So you're looking at more than just the library to work on right now.
To do a successful P3, we definitely couldn't just do the library. We'd have to have some other properties, and the ASB is one of the bigger facility projects that has been in our capital program in some way, shape, or form, or ideas for a while before I got here, I understand. But the 150 could include, say, stipends for kind of a design competition where we provide some funds to large consultant teams to show us their vision of what they think they could do for us. So it's trying to, as Hoon said, capture a conservative number to make sure we don't have to go back and get some more money.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, I actually have a question on the bridge repairs. So it shows prior year 81,000, and then the next one for the proposed is 50,000, 50,000, and then 50,000. So the 81,000, was that originally 50,000 and we went over, or and is this dictated by Measure M? Is that something, a number the county comes up with their bridge maintenance division, or is that something we project?
So the 81,000 actually, it's what the current project that the county is working on. So they've actually have been working on the design for the repair program. So my understanding is I think they should be going out to bid relatively soon. I mean, according to county's time schedule. So we are at their mercy. So basically they are the project managers. They're putting a bid package together. They will be managing the construction project part of it also. We are contributing the 81,000. That's our share of the cost of the work that's going to be performed in the in City of Burbank. So I believe the percentage roughly is about a little bit under 20% of the cost, because the rest is covered by the grant, the federal grant that the county actually has to do the work. And then the 50,000 is basically, it's every, I believe, odd or even, every other year, the city, there's a bridge inspection is performed. So based on the bridge inspections and some of the $50,000, we will use that fund to maintain the bridge and do the work itself.
Okay, so then that $50,000 could potentially turn into more?
It can, in the sense that it depends on what the bridge inspection comes out to be. It could depend on the program that the county puts together also. And so it may be 1 year we may use not the entire 50,000, and that could actually carry over to the following year. So it's going to be a mixed bag of how we actually kind of proceed in the future.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Avazian, you have a question? I'm sorry, you're on mute as well.
Sorry. Regarding the bridge repairs, have you been utilizing federal funding for BPMP program, bridge preventive maintenance, through the county?
Yeah, so the program right now, it is a federally funded project that the county's putting together, which the city is part of. So yes, it is federally funded, and our share, we're actually using the Measure M funds to cover our fair share, which is 81,000 approximately.
One more question regarding the city building seismic retrofits, which is a multi-year project. Which stage of the project you are currently in?
So we're currently in, we would have been farther along, but last year, if you remember, that was a project that was originally funded part of the CIP program, but because of COVID, we had to take it off. So we didn't have the full amount. So we actually recently secured a QA/QC engineer to kind of help us reevaluate, make sure our plans are pretty solid. The estimate is on point, and so we are, I believe, at about 90%, 95% as far as design goes. And then our plan is to go out with I just had it's not the design build process, but the contractor at risk, CM.
CM at risk?
Yes, thank you. Just drew a blank on that. But so we will be going out with an RFP for that, probably hopefully in the fall, late fall, early winter. We should be able to go out with an RFP for that.
So the $744 plus $200,000 doesn't include any construction cost.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the city yard service. The seismic retrofit, I'm sorry, it's currently in design. The 744 is for construction. So the prior appropriation was $200,000. The design cost is roughly about 90. We have about 110,000 left over. So the total construction cost is roughly about $850,000. And so once the design is complete, we're actually in plan check, and I think it's going to go probably right along the line where once the budget is approved, probably in fall, fall, late winter, I would say same schedule as the other one, we should be able to go out to bid and be in construction. But one of the things that we are working on is that we do need to schedule it with another project. We have a Maxim restroom project that's actually currently in the final stages of the bid package right now. And the reason we have to actually time that is because when Maxim is in construction, the activities that Parks has in the Maxim Rec Center, it's going to be transferred to the Maxim, the Gross Park facility. So we can't be basically in construction at the same time. So there will be some timing and scheduling that we have to coordinate with that project.
Thank you.
All right, lots of good information. Any other questions about this subject? All right. Thank you to staff for their hard work. That was a great report. I appreciate you bearing all of our questions too.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman and board members. It's a pleasure to get that done, and we look forward to bringing it to council and keep improving it in future years. So thank you, everybody on the call, for your help. Finance and Parks, it's a good team effort. We appreciate it.
All right, that moves us to introduction of additional agenda items.
I'm sorry, we actually have to formally call for a vote on that item.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped that part. I will lose my sleep over that one. So let's call for a vote.
You have to make a motion first, or just a vote?
There's a staff recommendation.
Armin Avazian, Armin Avazian,
Yes.
are we voting on it? Yes.
Sorry, was there
I
a
can barely hear you.
I might have missed it.
Yes.
We're We're voting on the item.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Armin Avazian,
Yes.
Walter Brennan Jr.,
Yes.
Maria Coronado,
Yes.
Greg Jackson,
Yes.
Vanessa Rishal,
Yes.
Tamala Takahashi,
Yes.
and Jeff Vanderboort is currently absent.
All right. Thank you, Lisa, for keeping us on point. Do we have any additional agenda items that we'd like to add to our list of pending agenda items that we have? Mr. Berkman?
Yes, thank you. I believe my time frame is right. So next month, we will present to the board the fiscal year 2021 third quarter capital project update, our quarterly update.
Great. Thank you for that information. Ms. Takahashi, go ahead.
Thank you. Before I talk about the future agenda items, I forgot to mention, I wanted to give a thank you to the staff who prepared this report for making it really easy to recognize which items were updated from the last report. That was super helpful. I didn't have to cross-reference the two reports, so it saved a lot of time, and I really, really appreciate that. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Okay, so for future items, I wanted to bring back to the attention to my colleagues the review of the IOB scope of responsibilities, including traffic responsibilities. And the reason why I want to bring it up is because as we are now moving forward with the vaccinations and people are we're finding more and more things are being available to us, that my guess is that fairly soon that the traffic division will start opening up the possibility to start the process again for streets that want to add speed humps or permits or stop signs and that kind of thing, and traffic will increase. So I think that now is a good time to bring that topic, now that we've finished this process of budgeting, that perhaps now is a good time to bring this to discuss for us so that we understand what our scope of responsibility is, how the process works, so the community understands that once we now move forward, how to get speed humps, what's the process now? And I don't know if that needs a really a complex report, but just an opportunity to discuss it and have questions and understand that process. So what do you guys all think about that?
I'll speak for staff that it is on there in the number 2 pending item. I would like to request that gets somewhere around July because we have budget process still remaining. That's pretty hectic through June, but it's definitely on our radar to bring back. I think I'd open the opportunity for Ms. Kurohara to elaborate on anything if she'd like to. Otherwise, July, somewhere in there would be my request.
So yes, thank you, Mr. Berkman. I will say that part of this is we are working with the Community Development Department right now, who, as I mentioned before, has really taken over a lot of the traffic-related responsibilities that IOB has jurisdiction over. And so we're really trying to figure out, we want to refine the process because right now IOB's scope over traffic matters is actually quite limited. It's not entirely clear when and where we would come to you. And so I'm working with the Community Development Department to figure out if there are, changes that we want to perhaps discuss with the board, to clarify the role, really. As you know, the history of all of this is that these responsibilities were consolidated into this board kind of at the last minute. And so I think, this is our time to really refine it. But it is absolutely still on our radar. And so that's sort of the process that's going on behind the scenes. We want to make sure we come to you with all the information before we come to you ahead of time and then may have to come back and ask for changes or discuss changes with you. We just want it to be as clear as possible. So that's what's going on our end.
Great. And the reason why I bring it up too is because there are some communities that are impacted by speeding and people using cut throughs. And I mean, right now, it's not as much of an issue maybe as it might be in the future. But as things start to open up more, the community is going to start potentially looking into how to get speed humps and how to get stop signs and stuff. And so I think it's important that they understand and we understand how that process works so that they can get started on working on that if they want to for their communities. Okay. And then I also wanted to ask my colleagues if there's any interest in potentially bringing in maybe something similar to what Mr. Hahn did earlier with our update for the project on Verdugo, if there's any interest in bringing in an update on the I-5 freeway project. I know that I think it was discussed during council meeting, but I think being the infrastructure board, it might be a place to get a kind of an official update on the process of that and what we're looking at for the future. Or do you think it's been discussed enough recently that we don't really need that now? What do you guys think?
Through the chair, if I'll defer to the board, please, if anyone wants to speak first.
That's right.
We have updated council, and there is a lot going on with that. And I appreciate the board's interest, but I think given the fact that we had a public meeting about it with council, there are critical items on your pending agenda items that would help us out to prepare and present in the future. And if the board does desire that, it would be pretty lengthy. I'm trying to think of, there are a lot of design details and construction details that we're working on behind the scenes also. So it would be rather lengthy. I'm trying to figure out what message the board would like to hear.
Design features on the I-5. I thought everything is done and, said and done. What's still in flux?
Things they didn't do.
Things they didn't do.
Them on, and they might need to do some designs. But yes, it's totally in construction. But that's an example of something that's a little bit of a rabbit hole to go into.
And the August completion of the Burbank Street Bridge is still in place. I'm going to be able to drive over that in just a couple short months.
And I know Ms. Kurohara is looking at me. I will answer that one question because we're getting into a discussion. Yes, August, September, they're still supposed to open Burbank overpass.
So the question would be, what hasn't been done? What did they leave out?
I mean, when are we going to find out about this stuff? Next year?
Through the chair, this is a discussion.
Yeah.
And the project is progressing as we need to. It's typical staff to staff working on construction issues. Nothing unusual.
Mr. Berkman, if I may, would it be helpful for the board if we sent you the council meeting where this was presented?
Yeah.
Refer to that for the information that you are asking about.
I mean, excuse me, but I feel we're sort of left out of the loop. We're getting one item a month, and I'm sensing, after 2 years, we should, nearly that the infrastructure board has been in existence. We should know what our mission is. We shouldn't have to be dealing with community development to find out, what they're doing or what we're doing. And, this is public information regarding at least it should be, regarding the I-5, which has been going on for a quarter century or something like that, it seems. I'm a little bit troubled by all this.
So is there going to be would you say that there'd be a point in the process of the I-5 where it would be valuable for us to review are there any decisions that the city's going to have to make on that? Or is that more of just that's a Caltrans project that they're keeping us on the loop for? And I think that mainly, I think the reason why myself and Mr. Jackson are asking this is I think it reflects the questions in the community. Like the community is generally has big question marks about this project. So, to me, part of my participation in this board is to be a liaison between the community and the city and from an infrastructure perspective. So what I try to bring is to, help understand what's going on from a kind of community member's perspective. So to me, the I-5 is kind of, I know quite a bit from watching the city council meeting, but it's still kind of a mystery for me. And I think that's something that the community would be appreciative of knowing more about. But if you said there's a community meeting that's been about that specifically, and that's a place for a community to go to ask about it and find out more, I think that would be great to be able to pass that along and share that information so that those in the community would know, where do I go to find out what's the updates, what's the next steps, what's going on with I-5.
We'll provide that.
How does everybody else feel about that particular issue?
I agree.
So do I.
I agree as well.
When I was on the traffic commission, we actually got updates from Caltrans regarding all the construction with the I-5. So we were always in the loop.
Yeah, maybe we could get a presentation from them to stop by and give us just like a 15-minute overview update so that you guys don't have more work to do, but that's something that they can provide for us. Maybe in I don't know, a couple months.
And I'm sure the community certainly has questions why it's taking so long. Is it over budget? Is it under budget? Who are the contract? Just general questions that would involve the community. I think it's important for us to know. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. It has a huge impact on our community. I don't think that I think people are starting to understand that we're not paying for it, that Caltrans is paying for it. But I think there is some confusion about the project. And as much as council has heard about it, honestly, not a lot of people watch council meetings, and probably not a lot of people watch these meetings either. However, it would be nice to have a place specifically where the concerns could be addressed so that there is one kind of go-to place. And this infrastructure board seems to me like the logical place for that to be.
Well, since this board is an advisory board to the council, we'll take that under advisement for you. I wouldn't think we go backwards because we already presented the council. So let's get the report to you and we'll take it from there and see what the board's pleasure is in the future and see if it makes sense. It is a Caltrans project. It is a state project.
Yeah.
We are an impacted city of several. So we'd be happy to provide the information that we can after you guys review the council meeting summary.
Okay. And just to follow up on that, so where is the best place for a community member to go to find out about the most updated information about that project?
The Community Development Department, and I don't have Mr. Kriski's name and number on my head right now, but that's
is there a page or a place to go that has updates on timelines, or is there a Caltrans page maybe, or?
I don't have that information offhand right now.
Okay.
I believe there is a Caltrans page where you can look at project updates. They also have videos on there showing you, the building process and how far along they've come. But I don't know that there's a place where you can complain, basically, or say, hey, this is impacting me and how can we fix it? But that's just from my prior knowledge. But this is something maybe we can discuss, hopefully, Mr. Berkman, we can get a short report on this just to appease the board here, maybe, and help the community with some information that might be valuable. Hopefully not something that's too much work for you. And like you said, you'll take it into advisement, and I hope you hear what we're saying here. All right. Do we have any other additional agenda items?
Quick question.
Yes.
Was there already a presentation done? There was already a presentation done, then maybe that presentation can just find its way as general information to us so that Public Works wouldn't have to go ahead and do more work. You know what I mean? Was there already a presentation that was already done, and then maybe they can just,
There was a council item about it, so we were going to provide that to the board.
Okay.
So maybe we take a look at that and make a judgment from there. We'll let them send out the information and we'll see what we need to do from that point. How does that sound?
Yeah. And I remember during that presentation that Mr. Talamontes, one of the council members, was he's very interested in this project and in the way that this is moving forward. And so I'm wondering if it's going to come back to council at his, maybe potentially at his or one of the other council members' requests, to get another update soon. If that does happen, if we as a board could be alerted to when that's going to happen, so we can make sure to tune in and see that the next presentation that's an update.
Madam Chair, I need to advise we're in a discussion mode. We need to end this, please.
Okay.
I hear you. Yeah, and that's a great suggestion, Ms. Takahashi. So, all right. So any other agenda items we'd like to add? Beyond that, on the pending agenda items list, we have an update on sales tax income. What you mentioned, Ms. Takahashi, the review of the IOB scope and responsibilities, including traffic responsibilities, project coordination protocol, fire protection of city facilities adjacent to hillside areas. So those are the things that we look forward to. We can certainly bring any other ideas we have to the next meeting. And then I look forward to seeing that update on the project so that we can all make a judgment from there. Other than that, if there isn't anything further, shall we move to adjourn? Perfect. All right, so our next meeting will be on April 22nd, 2021, right here, 6 p.m. via video conference or telephone conference.
Okay.
Great.
All right, great
Thank
meeting.
you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.